For an old guy like me, it was 1971 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And that's where you and I line up, is because when the dollar went off the gold standard, August 15th, 1971, they could print as much as they wanted. And today, they're printing in trillions. Before it was millions, then it went to billions, and now it's trillions. And just, a couple of days ago, the Mall of America, one of the biggest shopping centers in the world, just said they missed 2 payments of $1.2 billion a month. Imagine having a mortgage of $1.2 billion. So they missed 2 payments. The question is, who were those payments going to? And who's going to bail them out? And the Fed has to bail them out. In my opinion, they're going to have to print more money. And would you agree with that theory?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, whenever you get in these situations, there's 2 things that are important to understand, right? I always say that the U.S. economy is addicted to stimulus the same way that a crack addict is addicted to crack. Right? Yeah. You literally can't function without it. And we saw that when they tried to do some quantitative tightening, back in 2018. And then the second piece of this is any time that you get into these recessionary periods, they only have 2 tools, right? The central bank can only manipulate the interest rate, or they can print more money. And so they're using the tools they have, but they've already gone to 0% interest rates. They claim they're not going to go negative. So it's just a matter of how much do you print, right?
Let's go bigger picture. I think most people know that. They just don't know what to do. And they don't know why you guys, younger guys, so enthusiastic on crypto. I mean, even Max Kaiser, he's not as young as you guys, but he calls himself the reincarnation of Satoshi. I just crack. He's not even Japanese. I should be Satoshi. But I'll tell you that the thing that really, really woke me up, and it was thanks to you, because I call Anthony when I have confusion and stuff, was this halving. Now the reason halving is important is because at the same time, this is why I converted over to Bitcoin. This is my reason, and it was Anthony that cleared it up for me. Is that at the same time the Fed is printing trillions of dollars, Bitcoin is tightening. So Bitcoin's getting harder and the dollar's getting softer. Would you go into more detail on that distinction? Yeah, so if you take quantitative easing, right, that is literally the Fed printing money and flooding the market with more dollars, right? It creates a higher degree or a higher number of circulating supply of dollars. So that's quantitative easing. Now, the opposite of that, quantitative hardening or quantitative tightening, would be them actually taking dollars out of circulation, right? And so what ends up happening in Bitcoin is something that looks like quantitative hardening. So there's 21 million Bitcoin that have ever been created. Every 10 minutes in the beginning, 50 of them were distributed into the circulating supply. That programmatically was cut in half 4 years later. So after 4 years of 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes, it got cut to 25. It then went for 4 more years. It then got cut to 12 and a half. And just earlier this month in May, it went from 12 and a half to 6.25. So the way to think about this is previously, earlier this year, there was 1,800 Bitcoin a day that was getting created and entered into the circulating supply. Now there's only 900. So if you think about the opposite of quantitative easing is quantitative hardening, literally you're getting an artificially capped supply that is becoming harder and harder to get on a daily basis. And so as long as demand stays the same or goes up for that asset, the US dollar value should appreciate. And so the key piece to this, again, why are young people gravitating towards this asset is, one, it's programmatic, right? Compare that to the Fed. People are betting trillions of dollars in the market on, are they going to print more? Are they not? What's the interest rate decision going to be, right? All that kind of stuff. With Bitcoin, we know with 100% certainty what's going to happen. And then the second piece is that it's programmatic, right? So nobody can go in and manipulate it. And so in a world where any TV station you turn on, everyone's arguing over what the Fed's doing, right? In this world, nobody can manipulate the market. Bitcoin got the reputation of being associated with Silk Road early, and Silk Road was the dark side of the web, right? Yeah. Has that been cleaned up, or is that still It's always existing, but yeah. So here's the way I think about it, right? So there's 2 key components. One is every great technology is first adopted by criminals and drug dealers, right? And the reason why I say that is because they're the ones who are always having to innovate to stay ahead of the law enforcement.
right? So beepers, cell phones, the internet, all that stuff was first adopted by kind of the bad actors, and then it became mainstream. No different with Bitcoin. Started out with bad actors to some degree, and now it's become mainstream. But the second piece is also, don't forget, there was $2 trillion of the US dollar that was laundered last year, right? That's the estimates out of the UK. So $2 trillion. The crypto market cap is less than 400 billion, right? To give you a sense.
Drop in the bucket.
Yeah. So, you know, an asset like Bitcoin that's called 200 billion or so, right? Literally is 1/10 the size of how much US dollars is laundered every year. And so when you start to look at this, it's like, look, let's worry about the, you know, tracking down all those bad people using the US dollars rather than the couple of bad actors that are using Bitcoin.
Right. Good point. So we're running out of time, but what other reasons would you say to people, young and old, why they better understand Bitcoin especially? So
the whole pitch, I think, behind Bitcoin is you have to understand how money works, right? And the US financial system is predicated on 50% or more of people not understanding how money works. If you understand how it works, you know that the dollar is going to get less valuable over time. Bitcoin has the exact opposite monetary policy and should get more valuable over time. So once you understand that, it's pretty simple. In terms of what that price looks like, you know, I'm on the record publicly saying that I think Bitcoin will be worth over $100,000 by the end of 2021.
So you're expecting a 10-time jump on it.
Yeah, and that would track to a very similar growth rate to what it showed over the last 10, 11 years, right? So anytime you have something that's very innovative and disruptive, you get lots of volatility. If you are a longer term investor, you can stomach those big drawdowns, but you also get the volatility to work in your advantage on the way up. And so I think that's what's going to happen with Bitcoin.
So let me ask one more question then. Why do you say 100? You know, Rickards has the reason gold's going to go to 50K. What's your reason for Bitcoin going to 100K?
So there are many, many people who are way smarter than me. And what they've basically done is they've taken stock to flow ratio models that you would use in the gold world, right? Similar with the sound money principles. And they've overlaid it with the Bitcoin price movements. And what you find is over time, it's become more and more accurate. And so if you think of what is that goes into that, you basically are modeling supply and demand. With gold, you pretty much know how much gold is coming online every day. You pretty much know how much is out there. And then you predict what demand will be. Well, with this, what you're doing is you know with 100% certainty the supply side, so you have to predict the demand side, and that stock to flow ratio has been very, very accurate in the past, and that's basically what tells you by the end of 2021 you'll see $100,000 price.
Good, and the reason I really enjoyed that program, Open Letter to Ray Dalio, is you point out that you just put Dalio's principles back on him. You know, like transparency and trust and ruthless truth telling, whatever it is, you guys just put it back on him. Anyway, you know, I really, it's an eye-opening podcast. So anyway.